Hello and welcome to this week's news from Lanzarote, and boy have we got loads for you this week. Buckle up, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea because I think this will be longer than our usual news bulletin, but there's lots of really interesting stuff that we're going to be talking about. And let's give you a précis of what that is, and at the same time I'll run some photos showing you what the weather has been like here that I took yesterday at the airport here in Arrecife. So here's what we're going to cover: the 100% tax on foreign owners buying homes here story, a truck hitting a bridge in Arrecife, illegal tour guides, Aldi opening in Playa Blanca, TUI flight with racists on board, instant bank transfers, social media popular terms, caravan campsite in Famara, ebikes in Arrecife, wind turbines down, smart panels at bus stops, and fast-track squatter eviction. Like I say, there's an awful lot to talk about, so let's get on with it. As you probably saw in the photos I ran, the weather here has been glorious this week. We had a short spell of Kalima on Wednesday afternoon and evening. That had disappeared by the morning, and we've had blue skies and sunshine. It's been lovely. Now let's start with that headline issue, the 100% tax one. We'll give you a bit of background first of all. Spain has an issue in that a lot of investors have been buying up properties in Spain over the years and they're holiday letting them, and it's led to a housing crisis. We don't have enough housing for our own people, both here in the Canary Islands and on mainland Spain. Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has come up with a 12-point plan of things he wants to put in place that he says will deal with that issue, deal with that problem. Now, it's important to point out here that this is still very much in the early stages. If and when anything happens, we're probably talking at least a year, possibly 18 months before any of this actually goes into law. And in the meantime, this 12-point plan has got to go all the way through Congress in Madrid, where people from other parties and Pedro Sanchez's own party will be able to make suggestions and change things around. So it absolutely is not set in stone yet. This is a series of 12 points, and it's only a plan at this stage. Now, we don't have enough time in this video to give you all 12 points of it, but there are some which are quite interesting. They include things like tax benefits for people who are long-term renting properties as opposed to short-term or holiday letting them. There are offers of a guarantee by the government that rent will be paid for people who put their properties into long-term rental. There's talk about grants for people being able to restore derelict houses as long as they're going into the long-term rental market. And of course, there are a lot of plans for buying up land and creating affordable housing on that land. But the one that's caught everyone's attention was, I can't remember which point it was of the 12, but it was the point where Sanchez said that he would look to increase taxation to 100% for non-EU citizens and non-residents of Spain buying properties in Spain. Now, we don't have any detail on this. All we have is what Pedro Sánchez said. So the backup paperwork hasn't come out yet. And there are two schools of thought on what he meant. Some people are taking it that people from outside the EU, if they are non-resident within the EU, will have to pay double the price for a property. I read it slightly differently, or I heard it slightly differently. My understanding is that the tax element of that purchase will be increased by 100%. Now, there's a massive difference between the two, obviously. As I say, we don't know yet, but inevitably the British newspapers have taken it as the latter, and they're saying, you know, things like people's hopes of having a dream home in the sun are dashed because the property will be doubled. There are also, I saw one headline where they're saying that people's hopes of retiring to Spain and buying a property have been dashed and they will never be able to do so. That really isn't true for a couple of reasons. First of all, we're not sure if this 100% means a doubling of the price of the property. I don't believe it does. Secondly, it doesn't apply to residents. So if you are planning to retire here in 2 years' time, the process will be the same as it is now. You'll apply to become a resident. Once you have your residency, you will then buy a property over here and you'll pay the same tax as anybody else. And the third thing that's wrong about all of that, of course, is that inevitably the British newspapers have framed that as something that's against the Brits. It really isn't. It's just seeking a way to reduce the amount of people buying property in Spain from outside the EU as a pure investment. I'm sure that Pedro Sanchez would have applied the same to people within the EU, but he can't, because we have a rule called freedom of movement within the European Union, and all the terms for citizens of the Union have to be the same irrespective of which country they come from. So it would be impossible for Spain to put this kind of tax, what's the right word, tax increase on everybody who isn't Spanish, because that would break the European Union rules. But the bottom line of all this is, don't panic. This has not come into law yet. It won't come into law for some time. There's a lot of talking and negotiating that will take place between now and when it does. And you can rest assured that as all of those things happen, we'll keep you posted on what's going on in Madrid, what's being said and what's likely to happen. And when the law does become law, we'll tell you all about it. Okay, next up, this happened on Thursday. Those of you who know the Circunvalación well, that's the ring road that goes around Arrecife, will know there's a section of it with a relatively low bridge that vehicles have to pass under. And unfortunately, an overheight truck hit one on Thursday, caused loads of damage, loads of concrete fell down from the bridge. The steel rods that support the concrete were cut away in places and were hanging down. It caused utter traffic chaos. At the moment, there are engineers looking at the bridge and deciding whether it's structurally safe and can be reopened. We'll keep you posted on if and when it is. But at the moment, certainly for the next couple of days or so, there are likely to be delays going in and out of Arrecife. Now, this was an interesting one, the Association of Tour Guides. And that's quite a powerful Spanish, cross-Spanish organisation that tour guides are members of. They've lodged a complaint about the number of illegal tour guides operating on the island of Lanzarote. They're talking about Joe Bloggs, who hires a car or uses his own car to pick up people and take them out into the campo or on trips to various parts of the island, and charges 50 or 100 euros a head to do so. That is completely illegal. The way the system works here is that tour guides must be officially accredited. They need to demonstrate that they know their subject. They need to use approved vehicles and have all the insurance and professional drivers and all that kind of stuff. So they were particularly citing pickups from cruise ships, but I know it goes on just from the resorts as well. They were saying that, on a typical cruise ship arrival, there are at least a dozen cars there that are picking people up that aren't licensed to do so. Now, I mentioned the Kalima we had earlier this week when I was talking about weather earlier. It was short and sharp, which is quite nice, because often Kalimas last for 3 days, and a Kalima is when Saharan dust gets blown over the island and we get odd insects and so on. The AEMET put out a warning earlier this week that we should expect a high-intensity Kalima starting on Wednesday evening, and sure enough, it arrived, but that was sort of late afternoon, early evening, and by the time we woke up on Thursday morning, it had completely gone and we were back to blue skies. Now, you'll know that an Aldi shop has been in construction in Playa Blanca for some time. We now have an opening date for it. It opens on the 29th of January. The store is 1,200 square metres. It employs 19 staff, and around 20% of the product they're going to be selling has been sourced from within the Canary Islands. Now, did you see the video of the female crew member on the TUI flight, really shouting at passengers and telling them to behave themselves? It's a horrible story, this. Apparently this was a TUI flight coming from from London Gatwick to Lanzarote. and there was a family, British family on there of Iranian origin, and they were just attacked and vilified through the early part of the flight by a bunch of racists. You can't describe them as anything else, who were calling them horrible names. They were criticising them for speaking their own language, Farsi, and saying that they should be speaking English. Apparently this went on and on for ages, and the crew member eventually shouted at them. Somebody videoed it. I think they then settled down, but the captain decided to contact Arif ahead, and he arranged a police escort for the British Iranian family to take them off the aircraft and into the luggage area and make sure that they weren't attacked further by these racist thugs. Unfortunately, the police didn't just turn the racist thugs back, stick them on the aircraft and ask TUI to take them home. I think that would have been the right thing to do, but there you go. What do you think? Let me know in comments below. There are new street lights being put up on the promenade in Costa Teguise. That does mean sections of it are closed at the moment, and I've seen a few Facebook posts where people are saying, look, promenade's closed, what do I do? Well, the answer is just to go down onto the beach and walk along the beach part in the section where it's closed. This is a really good move because the lighting down there has been pretty poor, and I've walked along there at night and it just feels slightly uncomfortable. This new lighting will be much brighter, and it's also eco-friendly. Now remember to stay tuned to the end, because we're going to be doing the 3 things you could be doing if you were on the island next week. Now I mentioned in last week's news we were going to have the filming of the Netflix show Reina del Flow in Arrecife. That took place on Monday, and I've seen pictures and there were massive crowds there. And the cast of Reina del Flow were filming them giving a concert on the beach in Arrecife, and it was just fabulous. It looked absolutely amazing, and I look forward to watching the programme when it comes out. Series 3 of Reina del Flow on Netflix. Now, just a reminder to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Please give us a like if you do indeed like this video. If you don't, let me know what I need to do differently for you. We really appreciate every single view we get. Leave a comment or a question in the comments below. I read every single one of them, and I'm always happy to answer your questions. Now, I like this one a lot. A new law came in earlier this month that Spanish banks must now give must now give instant transfers at the same price as longer term transfers. Now, this frustrates me, or this pleases me greatly, but the old system used to really frustrate me. When I was doing a transfer from my Spanish bank, I was always given a choice. I can do a transfer that will take 1 or 2 days, or I can pay anything from €6 to €10.40 to make it instant. Well, that's gone now. You can make your transfers instantly from a Spanish bank account at the same price as whatever you were paying before for transfers. In most cases, and certainly in my case, that's free. And that applies to anywhere within the SEPA SEPA zone, which is basically all European banks. I found this very interesting. A study was done on the most commonly used terms on social media relating to Lanzarote, and there's a top 10. And if you go to the latest news article on our website, lanzaroteinformation.co.uk, you'll be able to see the top 10. But just picking out the top 3, number 1 was Playa Blanca, which surprised me. Number 2 was Timanfaya, and number 3 was Puerto del Carmen. And we go on to include Cesar Manrique, Famara, La Graciosa, Costa Teguise, and so on. But the top 3, Playa Blanca, Timanfaya, and Puerto del Carmen. Now, the island released its Plan PIOT, it's called. It's the Future Island Plan for Lanzarote, which includes territorial planning, you know, what the government is planning to do with different territories and parts of the island. There are some interesting ideas within there. These aren't necessarily going to happen, but you know, what they've done is basically taken a map of the island and said, we'd like to put this here, we'd like to create this over here, and we want that up there. as I say, this isn't definitely going to happen, but it's a way of creating a starting point, if you like, and then there has to follow a project to create whatever they've got in mind. Some of the interesting things on there are an extension of the existing landfill at Zonzamas, a sports city in Tahiti, which is basically a sports centre, another one in Arrecife, on the El Cable side of Arrecife, more land in Arrecife for housing, as you would expect, and also the creation of a conference hall, a proper conference facility for the island. The one that interested me the most was the creation of a campsite for caravans and motor caravans in Famara, and I think that is desperately needed, and it should be open all year round. Now, we've had 17 crews of 18 different nationalities for the Rourke transatlantic race, which is a sailing race on the island for a number of weeks now. They've been gearing up for their departure, training, practicing and loading on supplies. They've been based in Marina Lanzarote in Arrecife, and they've actually departed now this week. And I think a lot of locals got to know these people and got on well with them, so they had a terrific send-off of people watching from within the marina as they departed, and then the sea walls as they were heading out to sea. They are now headed for Granada, which is 3,000 nautical miles across the ocean from us. I like this story. Arrecife Ayuntamiento, the town hall, have decided to put a number of rental e-bikes. These aren't e-scooters, they are e-bikes, ones you have to pedal but that give you a bit of electrical assistance, into Arrecife, and they've ordered 58 bikes. And they're going to have 19 charging stations at key points all around the capital. The bikes will have a range of 60 kilometres, and you'll be able to hire them using an app. I like it because I quite often have appointments in multiple places in Arrecife, and for me it will be great just to be able to park my car somewhere, jump on an e-bike and go to each of my appointments and returning the e-bike to where I started. So I'm looking forward to that, and they should be in the capital in the next 2 or 3 months, I gather. We mentioned in previous news stories that the wind turbines, and I stand corrected, I was calling them windmills. One of our viewers pointed out they're actually wind turbines. So the wind turbines at Montagna Mina have now been completely removed. And they've been a landmark here ever since I moved to the island, so 25 years ago. And it's quite strange to see Montagna Mina, which is the mountain sort of behind the airport if you're standing with your back to the sea. Those turbines have now gone completely. They've not been operational for a few years either. Now, the Cabildo has approved the installation of smart panels at bus stops. And for those of you who use the buses, you'll find these extremely useful. We have some bus stops with them, but of the 318 stops on the island, only 42 currently have them. And they've approved the installation of them at all the other bus stops. Obviously, that's going to take some time to happen. But these smart panels track buses via GPS, so they can give really accurate information of when the next bus to Puerto del Carmen or Playa Blanca is due in at the stop you're on. And you don't have to sort of, go through that horrible situation of sitting there and looking and checking your watch. You'll know that it's 5 minutes away, 3 minutes away, 2 minutes away, and so on. And finally, in what is turning out to be the longest news we've ever done on this channel, the Madrid government have come up with a new fast-track plan to evict squatters. Now, squatters aren't a massive issue here in Spain or here in Lanzarote, but I am aware that there are some people who have had squatters in their properties, for example, in Playa Blanca. One of the issues has always been that it's super hard to get them out once they're in, and the old process could take up to 2 years to have those squatters evicted. Well, there's a new process in place. It's effective now, and it means that you can, by lodging a fast-track appeal for eviction with the courts, you should be able to get the squatters out within 15 days. And it's a significant improvement on the previous time frame. Owners will be able to file a complaint with the courts, who will then demand proof of entitlement of the squatters. And of course, they won't be able to do that because they're squatting. The courts will then issue an eviction order, and officials from the court will go down and oversee that the people actually leave. So that's it for this week's news. Stay tuned, because we're now going to tell you about 3 things you could be doing next week if you're on the island. And the first is to go and watch the ballet in Arrecife, and this is at the Teatro Salinero in Arrecife. Takes place on Saturday, today if you're watching this on YouTube. And it's done by the Ballet Clásico from Cuba. Now, we've been to see ballet at that theatre in the past. That was a Russian troupe doing the Nutcracker Suite, and it was just electric. It was fabulous to watch, and I'm not a fan of ballet. I don't really know much about it, but I really enjoyed the show. So this one will be a good one to do as well, I'm sure. So that's Saturday evening, and it kicks off at 8 o'clock, and entry is €20. A little bonus for you here before I do the other 2 things that I think you should be doing next week. There are 2 English language movies showing at the cinemas in Arrecife and Dayland this week. That's unusual. There's normally only 1 shown in English language, and they are Den of Thieves and A Real Pain. I don't know either of the movies or whether they're any good, but they're on if you want to watch an English language movie in a sort of traditional, conventional cinema here. And on to the first of the last 2 things you should do next week, and both of these last 2 are on Friday the 24th, so you're going to need to make a decision. The first of them is a Manga Festival. Now, I didn't know what a Manga Festival was either, but I'm reading from their description. Arrecife becomes the centre of manga, anime, video games and Japanese culture. And this event actually runs from the 24th to the 26th of January. It includes workshops, competitions, immersive experiences, performances, live show cooking, a gaming zone, Japanese sake tasting, and all kinds of things. And it's an outdoor event, and it takes place at various parts of Arrecife. Have a look on our What's On page for more details. I know that the whole Japanese sort of anime and manga culture is a really big thing with the youth here in Spain, so I guess that will be very well attended by young people. And the second one is, I said it was on the 24th, and actually when I read the date it's not, it's on Saturday the 25th. So forgive me for that. I think we've put that in the wrong slot on What's On. So this is the following day, Saturday the 25th. You can enjoy a charity bingo night if that's your thing. And that's at Club Calypso in Avenida Alemania in Puerto del Carmen. And the whole thing is in aid of La Casa de las Estrellas, which is an animal sanctuary here on the island. And they've got prizes for lines and full house, as you'd expect. They've also got a good as new clothing sale, jewellery stalls and more, and a chance to win a luxury hamper. The bingo is €5 per ticket, and as I say, that's at Club Calypso in Avenida Alemania in Puerto del Carmen. So that's it for this week, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm sorry it's been so long. I think my aim is to get back to our usual 10 to 14, 15-minute videos for the news, but you know, we're driven by what's there, and some weeks there's loads, other weeks there's just nothing at all, and it's quite hard to create a 10-minute video. So I'll continue to be here every Saturday morning with your Lanzarote news. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.